computer. All right.
Wow, how many people are here? I can't even
Is
believe how many
that
people. You had
no,
to
there's a
upgrade the
lot.
license, right?
Yeah, I've
Thank
upgraded
you.
the license for this event. Yeah, it's not stopping.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, please mute yourself, please. Thank you for joining. Please mute yourself. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, Akash, we need to mute everyone, and I'll mute everyone, and then I'll unmute Jesse, you, and I muted everyone. Um, you've done it. All right, easy, easy, easy. Cheers. Can you unmute Jesse? Jesse, if you can unmute yourself, please.
All right, the bouncers are here. Let's go.
We got everyone in the game. What up? All right, everyone. Welcome on. You know who this person is. If you don't know what you're doing, we've got Jesse, the man who has originated a lot of the deliverability concepts and talks of modern age email marketing as of the past few years. Jesse, thank you for joining on board. For those who are new,
Holy
welcome.
now.
Let's go for it. For every single person that's new, we do some fun stuff that we kick off with. Do note this video is being recorded. All you have to go ahead and do is tag yes, you do get. Oh shit, I've been not speaking this whole time. All right. Was I not speaking? You don't hear me?
I think you are. I heard you.
Okay. Oh, you heard me. All right. Yeah. So this event will be shared on our Slack and our YouTube exclusively as well. Now, very quickly, you all are here for a very interesting reason, and I think Jesse is gonna be. I think it was only natural that Jesse was the person who got to share this. We've got some very interesting data. For all of you who've done smart delivery tests, thank you. For those who've not tried out, and as a result, we've collected. Well, that's I think the article or this title says 1 million. That's crossed, I think, about 1.5, 1.6 now. So you've got a bit
Oh
more
my
information
God.
to play with. And Jesse has that data that he's going to be speaking to you about. It's fun. Make sure you stay back and go through it. And you want to pay attention. We're going to do something fun every office hours now. So make sure you stay back to the end of the office hours because we're going to be giving 5 lucky winners. Deny all. We're going to be giving 5 lucky winners the access to 6,000 email verification credits with email catch-all verification as well. Technically a competitor to Jesse, but Jesse's tool is fabulous. If there's anything I can recommend,
We love it.
not got Smartlead, which is 100% Lead Magic's email verification platform. I think it's #1 on Clear right now. Everyone in the market uses it. It has the best accuracy across the market at the best part on a cost perspective and value perspective, unmatched and unbeat. And I can safely say that in a recording running a competitive.
Waterfall.
Yeah. So by nature, check it out. It's a fabulous tool. We'll have a native integration to SL soon as well. But today, like I said, 5 of you stay back. We'll get access to smart leads, email verification credits, which also ranks accordingly to me quite well as well. A bit of bias, but it does quite good. You can ask Jesse. He's given it a crack too.
Best.
But yeah, till the end, 5 of you, whatever. You stay back on our Slack channel. We'll announce the winners. But today's intent is simple. What the hell is happening? And now it's no longer assumption. It's no longer guesses. It's pure data play across 1.5 million tests that we have run personally, as well as Jesse has gathered as well. So it will be semi-technical. It will be non-semi-technical. But before we do that, as always, bottom right corner, make yourself feel warm and welcome. Drop in where you're from and what your temperature is right now. Which part of the world are you coming in from? Hot. All right, we got Boston, cold AF. That is a temperature we love. Charlotte, New York, cold AF. Ireland, Dublin, Dubai, temperature desert. Love it. The Philippines, Germany. Hey, we got global audiences here for you, sir. We got New Jersey, Tel Aviv. We got Singapore, Pakistan. We've got Pakistan. Sorry. We got Costa Rica, St. Louis, Dallas. Nice, lovely. We got the globe here, and we got more people coming in. So Jesse, mic's yours, sir. Floor is yours. Let's kick off. For those who do not know, I will try to do a very quick warm introduction. Jesse is the founder of Lead Magic. If you do not know him, he has technically orchestrated and authored a lot of the value that you see across Smartlead and several popular ESPs in the world through his advice and through the committee that he runs, which is SYC, which I think is at limit and you can't actually even join it right now. So SYC is
We're
pretty much
making space for
foundational.
people. It's
Making
hard.
space, yeah.
I can't even
Yeah,
make
so
any space.
yeah, SYC is foundational to a lot of outbound and lead gen companies in the world. A SaaS yacht club. Jesse, feel free to drop it in the chat so people can at least apply for it, and then you can let them in when you're ready. Um, but yeah, Jesse, feel free to take the mic, sir. The floor is yours.
So what we basically have looked at here is placement tests, and what we're seeing is there's a very, very high correlation of what inbox provider people are getting. And I guess first, let's highlight, we're not going to share the actual real-time data, right, V? That's what we've agreed to?
Yeah, I mean, you can share what you think is going to help
Okay.
people out.
Well,
Oh,
I
one
think where
second.
we're
Yeah,
seeing
go
the
for it. Yeah, yeah.
Go
Go
ahead.
for it. Go for it.
One
Go
of
for
the
it. Go
things
for it.
we're
Mm.
seeing right now is we're looking at sort of like percentage of inboxing, right? So when we test it, what we want to have is a placement test. Let's start out by there, right? This is where we have access to both sides of the inbox, right? We have the one we're sending to and the one we're receiving from, right? And what we're looking for is where does that actually land, right? So if we're sending from a Google OAuth, right? If we're sending from our Google, our Gmail, and we want to send to another Gmail, we're seeing that right there is one of the highest percentages, right? So we're able to inbox inside Gmail much easier than we are when we're going outside that. So the first test we did was around Google OAuth, and we did it to another Gmail account, right? On that one, we were able to keep the spam rate we were able to keep the inbox around 70%,
That's
which
really
which
good.
was which
Yeah.
is really good. What that means is Google to Gmail, your Google OAuth, the ones you set up right in Smartlead, and then you're sending to other Gmail accounts. Now, this is all Gmail, straight Gmail, not this isn't like Gmail plus they're using like Proofpoint or Mimecast or anything.
No, no,
This
this
is
is pure Gmail. This is like
pure
professional
Gmail.
G Suite accounts. Yeah, professional G Suite accounts. Yeah.
Yep. And I know for all you the people out there who love real data and want to know this information, 70% we're seeing there. So that is a high probability of getting a delivery rate. And this is also taken into account we don't know the reputation of some of the inboxes. We don't know some of that, but that's, I mean,
Correct.
very high. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about the flip side of that. Gmail, or like, your Google workspace, to professional Outlook, to your work, your Microsoft Office accounts, we're seeing about 73% of those emails without even testing it landing in spam. What that means is it's going to be very hard for you to get emails to go from Google into Outlook. So you're going to want to plan these campaigns a little bit differently, right? You're going to want to look, and this is why I love the new placement testing and I love what Smartlead's doing, but knowing what email provider you're sending to, and I've been calling this out for a few months now, and Smartlead's really doing some amazing stuff where they're putting it into the product as it's coming, and at least V1 is awesome, and then where they're going with it is even more incredible. But what we're seeing is this Google to Outlook problem is very, very real. Meaning, we tried over 200,000 emails, and we only saw about 32,000 of them actually inbox, right? Now, when I say inbox, I mean that means landing in the primary inbox, and that's not like another folder, so that's Google to Outlook, and that was a real problem. Now, if we keep going into the next world of it, let's talk about Outlook. If for a lot of you that use Outlook, and these are set up regular accounts for the way that majority of Smartlead people set it up. We're not talking about like Superwave or any of the other sort of systems out there that people are using. But let's talk about Outlook to Gmail. Outlook to Gmail was 40%. So the highest was 68%. That was Google to Gmail. Then it was Outlook to Gmail, 40%. So we were seeing better success. So all around, Gmail was easier to email than Outlook. Now, we tried also doing Outlook to Outlook, which is also surprising, and Outlook to Outlook was even hard. So Outlook has really, Microsoft Office has really, really, really made it a lot harder for cold emails to get through. Now, we have to talk about this. This is a certain pool of accounts. This data will change. It could change tomorrow, right? And that's what you don't know. And I almost hate to report on data this good that it could change tomorrow, but that's one of the things is the next one we did was Outlook to Outlook. That was 42%. So I think 42% of it went into spam. So that only a 17% inbox rate. So the two lowest, Google to Outlook or Outlook to Outlook. And we also saw that those are the two lowest. And then the two highest was Google to Gmail. That's the highest, Gmail to Gmail. And then Microsoft Office to Gmail. So let me stop there. I'm sure there'll be some questions. Now we can kind of read into this a little bit, but if anybody has any questions, we'd love throw them in the comments.
Yeah, there are comments filling up already. All right. I mean, we'll get to the solutions, Jimmy. Don't worry. Vadim, we'll open up the mics at the end of it. These calls with Jesse usually tend to go way longer than 1 hour, which we look out to. And there's over 200 people here, so it's a fair bait number. Cool, Jesse. Let's start with the top question. Some of them just want to understand. Did you just say Outlook auth to professional Outlook? That's 17%.
Yes. Yep.
Ouch.
And this is where we're starting to really see. Now, listen, you have to take a little bit of, there's a lot into account here, right? What do we think different about that 17%? Maybe that 17% had the higher domain reputations. So it always pays. Like what we're not trying to do here is teach you how to spam, right? We're trying to teach you how to inbox, and inboxing is based on your domain reputation. Everything always comes back to how good is the quality of this email.
Yep.
Right. And how well is it being received in the market? Yep. And that's, by the way, that's where I think Smartlead users are the most sophisticated in the market. I don't think there's any other, when I look at some of the other sequencer products out there, I don't see the same level caliber. I mean, I'm talking, aggregate, like when you look at the whole data set, but I think their users are the most sophisticated and they really understand how to send cold emails. But you do have to take this into account when you're looking at this. This is an incredibly low number. When we look at like sending emails into Microsoft Office right now, it's just dramatically changed. And we're even seeing it even like a month or two ago, it was a lot higher. So, we even tested a lot of different things. We tested with some with warmup, some without warmup. We did a lot of different tests here to make sure that this was scientific. And, some people, there's always arguments about warmup. Hey, am I giving away my pool? Am I doing whatever? But we tested everything and we saw this, we definitely saw a disparity between emailing people who use Microsoft Outlook and people who don't. So anyways, I'll pause there.
I know. And I think right now it's kind of been across the market. I had a bunch of people also message it and just pretty much say there's something interesting happening with Outlook at the moment. But to your point, if you do this same session next week, we'll have different data. And that's the irony of this entire space, is it just oscillates right now. Now, okay, we'll take some of the questions that are coming through with us. First one, Jesse, you may be able to help us understand this better just from Lead Magic and the way you handle this on your side. Is how do you know with respect to Outlook or any larger company that they're using a Mimecast or a proof point? How can people get that checked?
So we do give it out in our we've basically mapped all the MX records. So for Mimecast, what you're going to look for is mimecast.com when you're checking it. So one easy way to do it, and let me see if I can do this without doxing myself here. I can actually share and show everybody. So if you go to here, if you go to Google and you want to see what, you could just run a DNS check. There's probably a cleaner website to do this on, but what this tells you is who the ISP, who their email provider is, right? When you validate emails in Lead Magic, you will get it. I think Smartlead's adding it too, and they're going to have that information in there too, but just to map it. But when it says google.com as their MX provider, that's what that is. So this is just a Google DNS. We do include it with the validation. Now I'll show you one that has Mimecast so you can see the difference. Arrow Street Capital, I think, is a Mimecast place. Okay, sorry, I was wrong. This is Proofpoint. So
Yeah,
when you see PP hosted,
it's
that
proof
means
point.
it's Proofpoint. Now they all have a different MX record setting. Now they're actually on Microsoft Office, but what Proofpoint is it sits over the top of it and manages the deliverability or deliver like the email system for them and sort of protection, mainly a security protection. Actually, let's talk about the purpose of these secure gateways. I know this is one of these top subjects, thanks, but we won't go there. But the secure email gateway, you'll hear this terminology. It's acronym is SEG, SEG. And what you're seeing here is if they're on this, it doesn't mean they're not on Microsoft or Google, right? It means that they're using, generally speaking, they're on Microsoft, right? It's a lot of legacy, like financial services they'll buy, like Proofpoint. Proofpoint then manages all of the thing. Now, I'll just tell you, they just have zero tolerance for bullshit. Right? They will, if one or two people market, they don't only phone home there, they phone home to everybody, right? They're going to the masses. So what I like to do is when I'm getting a domain going, we'll set up we generally will target what I generally do is we'll target valid emails on Gmail first. And the reason why is, we just saw the stats. Gmail is definitely easier to inbox on than Microsoft Office. So we start there. And the reason I like valid first, and I'm talking pure valid, not valid catch all, right? We have that, between, Lead Magic, Find Email, and some of the other ones that do it. But pure valid means you actually can get a response from that inbox to say it's a real email and it won't bounce. Right? There's no way to bounce it if they tell you it's a real email. And that's on the server side. That basically tells you that. So what we'll do is we'll generally go send an email there, and then that works best. Now you got your engagement going. You've got to try to get positive engagement on these domains when you start to set them up. And that right there is the biggest tactical tip that I could tell you is segmenting these out, starting with Gmail, right? Not going after that. Now there's other ones that are dangerous right now. Cisco Ironport is another one that if you go and start emailing right now with a cold email system, you're gonna hate your life. Mimecast is the other one. Proofpoint. Those are like the three main, the biggest vendors. And if you go look, it's pretty, it matches pretty well against the Fortune 500. And this is why it's so hard to get emails delivered up market right now. If you had to give me, hey, where would email work the best right now? It's going to be in that mid to SMB market where you don't have a lot of these filters, and that market you can go to town on, right? You can absolutely inbox. You're targeting, maybe you target that Gmail group there, that group. I mean, it's a little bit of a I know people are like, well, this is weird. Why do I have to decide I'm like, it's just the way it is. I'm sorry. You got to keep evolving with tactics, and you got to keep, as you're doing things, with your outbound, you're going to want to keep evolving. So that's really what we're seeing a lot of right now is that if you can get to the right MX gateways right away, you can sort of improve your chances. I mean, we just proved it with the placement testing. I don't think there's better data out there. And then if you start to really think about why these systems, why people spend all of this money on Proofpoint, Mimecast, and all of the other systems out there, Cisco, it's because of this, right? They're trying to prevent, and I'm not saying your emails are bad, but I'm saying if you get reported as spam a lot, then that's going to cause a problem.
Lovely. Fair
So
enough,
that's
mate.
why
Fair
companies go
enough.
through
No,
the
that
thick.
makes sense. Makes sense. So now we know there's something for us to work towards. So we've spoken about Proofpoint, Mimecast. We've spoken about the fact that if you get toasted by one, there's a good chance you'll get toasted by the entire network. But in the end, we do need to send outbound messages. And unfortunately, or fortunately, a large part of Fortune 5000 is, O365 or Outlook, right? So now we do know these numbers change because the irony of this is if we run the same data, which we will, by the way, for everyone referencing, we'll be doing a lot of these breakdowns every week or every 2 weeks, and you'll get the reports too, all 200, 300 of you here right now, and across different platforms. The question though is, what do we do, right? So Gmail to Gmail, great. I think that's a very positive sign. In fact, that it's also really good that it's Gmail professional to Gmail professional because most of us are doing B2B, right? And that works really well. And looks like Gmail to professional Outlook is a bit shifty. And to your point, Outlook to Gmail. So basically, Gmail is saying, "Come at me." Like every email is good to go to come through, right? But Outlook's being professional and personal is being quite intense. What do you suggest can be potential solutions? Is it just a waited out time sort of game thing, and we'll see this change, which we have seen? I mean, you've been on this show
Yep.
like I think 6, 7 times at this point, and each time there's separate data. And I think one time we were shitting on Outlook, then we shat on Google, then we shat on Outlook and Google. So, what do you think people should do now?
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you got to do really is don't get too emotional about this stuff. Don't start like what I see people doing is they start switching around and tools and stuff like that. Don't get emotional here, right? This is just facts, right? Like you're running a business, you're gonna have to keep an eye on this. You're gonna have to charge your customers. Now, another thing is look at this as a benefit of your service, right? Now, if you're in a discussion with a client, you need to start explaining some of these concepts to them, right? You need to say, hey, here's what we know about the market. And by the way, if you start using other providers of the same service that we're offering, if you're a lead gen agency or whatever, you need to explain to them like, hey, this is what I know about this stuff. Do you want to work with a company there? And this should allow you to get out of the, hey, we're a pay per meeting performance-based company and start to get into more of a strategic or technology advisory to that company. And not only that, your prices can go way up because you can even send them on their path and say, you know what, go use that other provider. They'll be back to you anyways because they're going to realize that they're in spam. And you're going to tell them, telegraph it, tell them exactly what they're going to see with other providers. They're not going to have this level of knowledge. And what I would recommend doing is, the reason I partnered with Smartlead early was I saw that the vision was clear. They wanted you to land in the inbox. And regardless of this getting harder and harder, it's getting harder for everybody. And that's what I think a lot of people miss is that just because it gets a little harder here and there, it's like you don't want to just do something crazy and you're going to have to just preface this. Stop doing performance offers that you can't maintain. Start educating them on how to do some omni channel as well. But it's not about dropping your price. I mean, it's about raising your prices and explaining these concepts to people and telling them why they don't want to go do this themselves. And that's always the fear is like, hey, are they going to take my environment? No, like they'd be crazy, right? Like this is a hard thing to solve, hard problem to solve, and it requires a lot of testing. The one tip I can tell everybody that works is you've got to get out of the gate positively. So whatever you got to do to kind of get that engagement up in the beginning, that's what really changes the game. So if you can get engagement fast, meaning you're hitting valid emails, you're not bouncing, you're not getting the catch-all bounces, which are the ones that have like 6 to 12 hour bounce delays. You got to be very careful here. And what you want to do is email those Gmail accounts, maybe hit them with the Gmail right away. Just get out of the gate, have that smaller set, maybe break it up into campaigns. You have your success set right there. Get that valid group out and then continue to go. And also make sure they have enough people in their market that they can target. I mean, if you're taking on clients that are targeting the Fortune 1000, I just don't see you being successful. I mean, right now with just email, pure email. I mean, I can't see a situation where you're going to go out and email your way to success against the Fortune 1000 right now. I just don't see it. It's not that they're detecting all of the cold emails. It's that they're not letting anything in, right? Because email at itself is the number one attack vector for every company right now. Every CISO is completely terrified of email because it's the one way where people can get social engineered, they can get phished, they click on something. I mean, I've seen some great, like some phishing attacks. Like, lately I saw one where it was like, hey, pay your invoice to Zoom Info, it's late. I mean, now this one, they used my name and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I could see a procurement person falling for that, right? And, you got to think like there's a lot of that going on right now. And I've talked to V about this. Security is of the utmost importance with your clients, and just how you maintain your systems and passwords and all of that. You really just want to kind of lead with an example there, and never take one of those like pay per meeting performance deals. Like you're really lowering yourself into a very very bad, especially if you're giving them the value of a sophisticated user of Smartlead. I mean, you're really screwing yourself. So don't do it.
Fair enough. That makes perfect sense. Thank you for that. I want to jump in and take some of the questions that people have
Yeah.
raised over here. Um, First question. Well, there's a lot of questions. When people speak about, when you said not to mention Fortune 5000 just on outbound, you're absolutely right. You're going to need a lot more than just doing that at the moment. You want to go ahead and push through, I guess, a lot more various points, right? I do want to raise one thing over here is no, Jesse did not say to forget about emailing. His point was, I think this is consistent across what everyone has spoken about a long time. You can't just send outbound emails and expect things to work in magic. It's not 2021. You need to go ahead and have a social media, like a LinkedIn presence to some extent, a basic website, right? A decent offer. You need to have that at least in place. Now, some people have asked, just to take a second, Jesse, is how do I filter Gmail users to send to only? Um, so SL Smartleads had something called ESP matching for about 2 and a bit years, and the guy who told us to do it is on the right side of the screen, Jesse. So he actually guessed this 2 years ago. Not guessed it. I guess he gave that data, and we were speaking. He said, "Yeah, you need to bring this in," and then we brought it in, and we did see a bunch of value. We did see some people who did not like that we did that, and obviously, I got blocked on LinkedIn for that, but that's fine. But you can go ahead and try ESP matching and see that results come through. We will also be providing this information in real time to a lot of you who use or don't use Smartly. It doesn't matter. We're all the same here. You'll get that information. Jesse, I want to speak to you about some of the questions asked over here, which is to do with SMTP providers. Where do you think they stand? What are your thoughts? Do you think they are the way to go? Do they have a better chance or no, and so on and so forth? And just before we do that, for those who want to know, we did have SMTP providers that we obviously had people sent messages from, the popular ones in the market that you all know. It is a bit tough for them to get into the Outlooks, but it was not that tough for them to get into the Gmails. So the data that we shared does not have that, but because the volume was quite low, we did not feel that it was fair or accurate to go ahead and share that information. But it's consistent with the impacts of just Outlooks just being a bit tough right now. And I think there was a point where I think our lead engineer who actually built SD, a smart delivery, is here, and we thought there was a bug on our system because every single email to private Outlook was going to spam. I was like, nah, there has to be an issue. We can't have 100% spam. And this is private Outlook, just to be very clear, right? That means personal Outlook. And we actually logged in and we went through the logs, we went through the terminal check, and it was just, yeah, I think there's 30,000 emails that was sent, and like 297 went to the primary, and like 29 something thousand went straight to spam. That is private Outlook. But look, you should not be messaging private Outlook anyway. You should be doing professional Outlook regardless. Professional Outlook was a lot better, but on I guess not the cleanest amount of data. So for those quickly asking questions, and Jesse, I think we want to understand from you, how do you think people can manage spam filters, and what are some things we need to look for? But for those who are asking, the average sample size across this data set that we have, that Jesse is going through, the Google data is aggregated across 350,000. The Outlook data is aggregated across 200-ish thousand. So do note, this is like a nanoscope of a drop in email marketing on a day-to-day perspective. Like we as a small, I'd say we're a smallish platform compared to the rest of the world. And we process, 36, 37 million emails a day. So, 500,000 is nothing, but it's still data that you want to, focus towards. So Jesse, running into that, a quick question. What is the safest and best way of email infrastructure setup at this point?
Yeah, so I'd say the best way to do it right now is going to be, setting up in the country that you're emailing, right? That's going to be the number one thing. You got to be careful. Some of these resellers, it just depends on how they're sitting on the board there, right? Obviously, there's lower cost inboxes out there, but are you paying for that, right? Like, what is it that they're doing? See if they have a good story there. I think setting them up the most human-like way, putting them on their own org, putting them on their own tenant. Those are the types of things that really help, right? You need to kind of have this stuff isolated, right? You're doing it for a client, so hey, if you're going to set it up on multiple different client levels. maybe you know, if you're going to do some automation, you can pretty much automate every step, and you can do it, you know, perfectly fine. Google will let you do it. The only step that they don't really have documented is, there's a way to do it, but it's just not it's not documented, and you're not supposed to do it, is the DKIM step. So the best way to do it is to set these up, but then start emailing, you know, and emailing people that are on a system that you can actually get a response from. It's critical when you first set these inboxes up that you're not getting spam, you're not bouncing, you're not rolling the dice on a catch-all. You know, even if the vendor has a 5% bounce guarantee, right? Like, you want to be careful there. You know, also knowing what you know now is you could probably start to factor in, hey, which provider are they using? So maybe your first campaign you go out with, and you can set up on Gmail, and you can start to target, you know, more Gmail on Gmail, and then you have that going, and then maybe you start to roll in a couple more Microsoft accounts, things like that. Like, it really, you have to get responses faster. You just have no, you know, I know that sounds obvious, but like, even the negative responses seem to help, because it means somebody actually did take the time to read the email. It's not like it's not horrible if somebody's not interested in your offer. Maybe the timing's bad, the information's bad, you know, your data. But if they respond, there's a relevance there, right?
Mm,
That's still, like, it's still slightly relevant to them most of the time. That's what I would say.
good
You've
call.
got to get the valid responses faster.
Good
You
call.
got to get
Okay,
those responses way faster.
fair enough. Fair enough. Then I want to jump in and ask you, with the product that you shared, the tool that you shared, can you drop in a link to show which country the email address is hosted in? Customers want to go, and people want to go ahead and check with their resellers if that is,
Yes.
probably something.
Yes. The yes, I know which one you're talking about. I think it's working. Let me just double check.
You can drop
You're
it in the
talking
chat if you
about
have that.
you're talking about the domain checker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, domain checker.
Yes, yes, yes,
That does the
yes.
MX report checker.
Let
Yeah,
me make sure it's working here. It is
yeah. Take
working.
your time.
Um, Here it is, and you're only getting it if you're on this webinar. Is the
A
password.
a nice.
That
Jesse, I have
one.
a question. I don't know
If
whether
it
you want to
says
speak about this or
region,
not.
oh, sorry, I was gonna explain it
No,
to you.
no,
If
go
it
for it. Go
says
for it. Go
region,
for it. Go for it.
if it says region, NA, if it says region NA, it means North America. If it says region Asian, it means Asia Pacific. So that's probably
Southeast Asia
India,
and so on and so forth. Yeah. Mm,
Southeast Asia. Yep.
mm.
So you want to kind of look at that. It's good to know. This only works on Microsoft Office. This does show you by the way, the other thing this shows you is the tenant IDs are kind of interesting, because what this actually shows you, and I won't show you mine because you'd see everything going on, but it's kind of funny. You get to see every domain that's associated with that region, or that tenant. So if you're working with a
Yeah.
reseller, you could see everything on that tenant, and it's kind of interesting. And I put the password in there. By the way, the password is in the source code too. So if you want to, I mean, I made it really obvious. I wasn't trying to hide it. So you know, it was kind of a
Uh,
cool tool that I made. I
nice.
mean, I figured out a way to figure this out. So if you want to know who your resellers are, where they're buying them, um,
That's to go.
please don't. There's definitely some opportunities for abuse on this thing, so please don't abuse this thing. It'd be nice if you
Yeah.
didn't, but
Jesse's gonna have a lot of people start to have questions show up now as of this call. Lovely. Uh Gotta love it. Jesse, so question for you. I don't know if you want to speak about this because it's too soon or not yet. Google's supposedly dropping an update tomorrow. Do you know what that take is? Do you have a take on it? Do you have an update or any feedback from your side?
so I think I'm running the system of the future personally, myself right now. I think I'm running what they're going to get to eventually. You know, I've been trying to get ahead of this thing for a while now, and I think I am running the system of the future of like what Google's getting to. You know, and where I think people are going with this is they're going towards is this a cold email or not? They're trying to like roll up your email, run a GPT prompt on everything. Um, you know, I think it's more of that, but this is where I would tell you, like, whatever Google adopts, you have to sort of think about another thing that's happening, right? And what I mean by that is, think about like we're in it, right? All of us here are in it, but like think about like what your friends and family like they don't know anything about this. Like, when I talk to my friends, I'm like, hey, are you marking as spam? Like
Mm.
I can't remember. We had a discussion about that one time, and yeah, my friends are like, dude, you're a loser. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about, right? So like the average person isn't really thinking about that. So like, and a lot of this Gmail stuff, like they just want to get out of their day and get out of their job and they're miserable. So like, like I don't think like everyone's like, oh my God, a cold email, like so it's gonna take some time, right? You got a good window here, right? But what you want to do is start out high quality. I'll tell you the group that is very dangerous right now. So obviously I identified the Fortune 5,000, Fortune 5,000 really. I mean, it's anything with a billion in it, right? They're not gonna have a problem buying Proofpoint, anybody there or any of those other ones, right? But I'll tell you the group that keeps me up at night whenever I get a client and they're like, we're not really doing clients as much anymore, but like whenever I'm working with somebody we're working more with the agencies, but whenever I talk to an agency and they're like, yeah, we've got a lot of technical audience, I'm like, ooh, because your average software engineer and your basic, technical IT person, they know the impact of reported spam. And that to me is like, so, choose your audience wisely, like choose your enemies wisely, choose your audience wisely too, because you really, really need to email people who are less sophisticated right now, because they will, I mean, they're going to be more apt to market spam if you think about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, that's what we're
Um,
finding. We're just finding like technical audiences, your inboxes start to die faster, like
Faster. Yeah, fair
very
enough. Because
quickly.
they've basically
Yeah.
laced it with like a very complex or I guess strict SEG as you called it, and that ends up having issue. Um, so Jesse,
Yeah.
just as a quick note, for those who want to know what a secure email gateway or basically a spam filter does, how do they work on
Yes.
infrastructure technical perspective, and why is it that if it gets hit by like a proof point, then oh no, I'm in trouble like across the board? What does that mean? If you can keep that as
Yeah.
basic
So
as possible, because I think people want to get snippets of this.
here's what we don't know, right? We don't really know how this data is getting, moved around and like there's blacklists, there's things like that, but there's much more to domain reputation. And you've got to be thinking about more API driven systems. Really, what I mean by that is systems where they're calling more of a behavioral, they have their own data set, right? They're not working off of what you think they're working off of. They're not working off like, PB, spam PBL. Like they're not working off like the regular, um, spam assassin list or whatever, right? Like they're working off a different list. And that different list is really, really interesting because that's their own data set. So what they're able to do, they hash up a lot of this data, so it's anonymized, right? They don't want to have it like biased against something, but what they do is they'll say, okay, well, this domain, whatever the hash of this domain is, we believe this domain is much more likely to be a spam email than not. So now it's crossed this threshold, right? And there's any number of things. Now it's like, and also like turn off open rates. Like once again, turn those off. Like you're really, I mean, I know you kind of have to keep it in the product, but it's like at this point, if you haven't figured that out yet, that those are really bad for you. Like you're really now it's bad for you. It used to just be like, Jesse, you didn't have to use it. And I remember I got in a good argument with Eric about it one time, but I'll tell you, just showing your clients the open rates, if that's the only reason you're doing it, you're really, really screwing yourself because that report a spam button just got a lot closer to anybody who's using an open rate. And I know you can do some CSS tricks, but it's coming back. They're gonna get around that, and they already have in most cases if you look. So just don't use Open Tracker, of course, turn it off and just really make sure that you get out to a good start and understand that secure gateways, those gateways, what those things can do, they have their own data set and you have no idea how they're tracking you.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
yeah.
just don't know
Yeah.
what your reputation is,
Mm.
and they're sharing it across the whole system. So you're sharing, if you email one proof point user and maybe they're sharing it with other systems too, so you don't really know,
Correct.
right? I mean, they've just got a massive data set of
Correct.
any domain, and reported
Correct.
spam is pretty unusual. If you get reported as spam, like that's an unusual thing.
Correct.
A normal person doesn't get even one a day.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
So think about that, right? Like when you're doing this, you got to think about it like very human. I know we've
On a
had some
human perspective, I think you said this a while ago, which
Yeah,
is in the end, you need to realize that Gmail and Outlook are products and SaaS platforms in the end, they're going to do their
right.
best to actually give their
Oh yeah.
customers the best experience possible. So they're not doing anything wrong. You just need to play by their rules, and then you will always win, right? That's just the the nature of the game. So fair call that, fair call that. Jesse, is there any we're getting towards the tail end, but and then the crowd hasn't stopped and there's tons of questions. Um, okay, I have some quick questions to ask you over here. Um, do well, hold on. Now,
Give me
if
the hard
someone's
one.
gone, yeah, I'll give you a hard one. I think there's some that came up. I was like, oh, should I throw that your way? I'll throw it your way. Okay, your your simple. Let's actually just do some speed questions. I think people will love that, and I love it as well.
Do it.
You can go with a yes and no, like a simple reasoning. Warm ups, yes or no?
Yes, right now, yes. Yes.
Okay, sweet. Okay, warm ups, yes, sweet.
I think there's
Um,
other things causing, and the reason why is I think there's other things causing some of these issues. And when I drill into some of these things, and I'm like, what is going on here? We've been trying both sides. We've tried both sides, and I think you got to do a little bit of your own testing here. But here's the thing: we can't really discover. I can't. There's always something else. Like whenever somebody's like, "Oh, I'm in spam, whatever," and then I go in, I'm like, "All right, let me look," and then I look, and I hate getting into this "let me look" thing because it gets me into like, I've been in so many of these. I've fixed so many DNS records in my life. I'm getting tired of it. It's like really bad. But if we get into that whole discussion, I just always see something else. And I'm like, dude, this is gonna hurt it too. So now
yeah,
we gotta go
fair enough.
retest it all and all that. But like, look, I think right now you have to, and look, you have to listen to the placement testing. I mean, that's warm up is a form of placement testing, right? You're
Yeah,
you're getting that. So I think coupling that with the delivery suite that you can get on Smartlead, I think you want to check that. But what you want to do is really look out for these spam ones. Like, why are you in spam? Like, that's really weird if
mm,
you're doing it.
mm,
Like you shouldn't be in
mm.
spam right away, especially if you're emailing all Google. Like, what's going
Straight
on?
from Google. Yep, you're right. So I do want to call
And
out
there's a
some
lot of
pointers.
trolls out there too that are like, yeah, there's a lot, and I've seen a lot of these Twitter trolls that are just like, you didn't think they'd figure it out. Like, look, man, I don't know. Like, there just isn't a lot of great evidence of it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I could understand what they would try to do there, but do I think they're out there looking for people that are cold emailing? No, I think they have a bunch of. I think it's all AI driven on the other side. Like, I don't even think they have people on this thing.
yep.
So,
Fair
anyways,
enough. Fair enough. Fair
pause it
enough.
there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, that's fair. I love it. Um,
It's insulting that people go after people for their success. It's
Correct,
kind of
correct.
like,
Absolutely right. Definitely, yeah, if you want to try ESP matching, well, Outlook, we're not sure, but at least for Google, we know it works. Look, like I said, everyone, the reports will be published. We'll be publishing it every fortnight or so, so we have palpable data and not just, throw random stuff at you. Second, you will also be seeing this reflective into all your campaigns and your personal reports too. You'll get reports at the end of each week as to how you're benchmarking across the rest of the market. So you have that natively for SL. So that's all be coming in for you now with the SD running in full steam ahead. Now, just one quick point before Jesse, you go to the next fun question. For those who have asked, with warm up copy, what does that mean? I just want to be very clear. When you warm up using any platform in the world, does not matter, to be honest. They're all very similar. Yes, some have better domains and some mailboxes in reputation perspectives and age of domains than others. But by nature, note when you're warming up on these platforms, you're warming up your perceptive domain and your perceptive MX record for the one that you're sending through. We are bringing in something fun for all of you in the next few days. Whoever uses Smart Delivery, which is we will warm up your copy as well. So when you do an SD test and one of the SD tests lands in spam, we will actually reply back with a positive sentiment and move it from the spam folder to the primary folder. So emulating a warm up experience with your actual copy too. So you'll be good to go on that side. Now talk on setup infra. I think Benjamin, we can definitely take Jesse's two C's over there. Jesse, if you want to go into it, because I know it's a bit of a everyone has their own preference and everyone has their own take to it. If you want, we'll take that question. Otherwise, there's tons more things that
yeah.
I
What
think
was the
people will
question? Sorry, what was the question?
the question was simple, which is
Yeah.
what's
So
your take
setting
on
up the
setup
infra,
infrastructure?
like,
Yeah.
yeah. So what I like to do is I like to buy the domains on one provider. like register, like not Cloudflare. Don't buy the domains on Cloudflare because they're harder to transfer. I think they did add transferring recently, but they're just a pain to transfer if you ever have to. So you buy them on like Namecheap or you buy them on GoDaddy or one of those. Then you point them at Cloudflare. Then you can use the Cloudflare stuff. Now Cloudflare has it's not just the DNS set up on Cloudflare. There's also the workers, which are really nice because those you could actually set up a site for the person. If you take on a client that has a really, really bad site, you probably want to build them a website. And I know that's you charge them extra for it, but like you probably want to put a website up for them. If you can't go to somebody's website, your chances of that campaign being successful is probably zero. so don't even bother with people who don't have websites. It's just a waste of time.
Makes sense.
And Cloudflare has some nice features there and really can handle that. And then the automation's pretty easy there. The APIs are pretty well documented in the in there. And then I think if you're going to set up on Gmail, you could do that really easily, or you could set up on Office, either one. Obviously, we just saw that Gmail, if you're emailing mostly Gmail accounts, you probably want to set them up on Gmail. That's probably the best way to do it. What I'll do is I'll audit the TAM or like the ICP of like what we're emailing. And then I'll say, okay, we're going to go use this. This is the mix, right? And if it's all Gmail, I'm probably going to use all Gmail, right? If it's
Yeah,
all Office,
I
I
love
might
it's all
change
Office.
around a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like Gmail doesn't deliver very well to Office. So, that's another problem right
We'll flip
now.
it
And
across. Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I'll do.
Fair enough. Makes sense. I guess that's a beautiful segue for a lot of you who have actually messaged on Slack and DM, etc. Um, FYI, Smartlead has Smart Senders launching in about a week and a bit. The team is actually who's part of that is in the call. Smart Senders is super straightforward for all of you who want to understand. We've worked and combined ourselves with some of the best resellers and vendors in the market, and it's a shopping cart experience. You can buy 10 Gmail accounts, 5 Outlook accounts at a pretty affordable price, or SMTP mailboxes as well. Click, 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 and you're good to go. You got a shopping cart experience and one-click buy, domains and mailboxes all done for you, so you can experiment, test as aggressively as you want, and always consistently hit that primary. Jesse, we want to have one or a few more questions, and we'll get the floor open with questions people have on a mic to mic perspective. Um, the question that I want to sort of run through with you over here, we'll drop the warm up questions. We'll get to that eventually. Um, on a concept of email validation, email verification, which I think is, amongst other things, also a very strong suite of yours. Um, I'm not here to ask you to pitch Lead Magic. We all know that it works really well. I guess what I want to understand is for those people who are just committed to using other tools, for whatever reason, let them continue using that. What do you suggest as some advice of things they need to look out for to ensure that
Yep.
their mailbox, their leads are at least, they're validated? Let's just say they've bought like a year worth contract with tool XYZ, a competitor, does not matter. But just as goodwill advice, what do you think people should be looking for? Or I guess the questions they should be asking their vendors in terms of, am I really validated or am I not validated?
So I think what you want to do first is you want to email valid emails. There's two things that I think you need to do now that I think you didn't have to do before. So valid emails work, right? When it's valid, I know there's other vendors out there who says like, oh, you can get it all in one tool and whatever, but what valid means is to me, right? If it's a pure valid, what that means is you can actually ping the MX server and it'll tell you that it's a valid email. That means there's no chance you can bounce, period, end of story. There's no bounce. There's no way you will bounce on that. Like they couldn't even bounce you later if they wanted to. So that's where I would start. Now, a lot of us have this valid catch-all status. Now that you're going to probably see like under a 5%, but what that is maybe we're finding it other means. Or maybe it's like a catch-all that, catch-alls can bounce later. There's all kinds of things that you can do with catch-alls we've seen. On those ones, what you want to do is email them second. Obviously, you always want to start with the valids, then you go to those. And on the catch-alls, what you really want to do is maybe that's where you can check multiple vendors. There's different ways to check that. There's different systems. A lot of the ways to check catch-all is based on another. Well, all of it is really. It's based on how, like, I'll give you a couple examples. you might, the best way to do it would be to email it and wait 48 hours, right? That or whatever it is. It can bounce up to 24 to 48 hours later. So if you wait, that's the best way to do it. But that's not going to work for most people because they have to get their campaigns going. So then you have to use other database sources, or you have to sort of guess through with some degree of confidence that it could be a real email. The other thing you want to do is on those emails is make sure the person works there. So that's
How do we
another
do
thing
that?
that.
How do we do that? That you can confirm if the customer actually works
So
there.
yeah, so LinkedIn is the best place to check for that. You can use Lead Magic has a LinkedIn verification on that, so you can go in and you can just when you're doing it. We actually have like we spent a lot of time on it actually. Our Smartlead integration to push to Smartlead. So what people will do is they'll run it against our they'll use either Clay or they'll use our, it's like when you put a LinkedIn URL in and then you will basically scan the URL and our LinkedIn data is very up to date. So it's like, within a day or two, and you basically go in and you just run that, and then it'll tell you exactly where they work, their current
Okay,
company.
fair enough. So that's just let's save you the embarrassment and
Yep.
gives it more relevancy. Okay, makes sense. I
Yeah,
get it.
it's
Also, it's not.
competitive.
It's valid. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And it's it only costs a penny to do that. So like if you find out somebody doesn't work at the company that you're targeting, like it's not going to be a good day, right? Like you might as well not email it. You might still get
Yeah.
through though, but you're going to get
Yep.
an auto reply or like
Saying yeah,
their
the person
boss.
doesn't work and all that stuff.
It
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
okay, but it's still going to bounce in some level. It's not the right
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
you want to be emailing. That verification step is kind of critical. And then I'll see people using like older data, like sort of stales, like Zoom info data or like something that they have and they don't want to burn more credits out of because they're already
Mm,
getting
mm, 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 mm,
crushed there.
mm.
So that's another thing that I've noticed is really important
Okay.
is if you can
Fair enough.
get out and running
Fair enough.
fast. Yep.
Fair enough. Makes sense. Aaron, no, the statement here is not to Outlook, email Outlook. You can definitely send to O365. Just note that. Look, for those who are OGs, I know there's some OGs over here. Like I said, Jesse's been here 7 times, and each time he's dropped like massive amounts of information for us. And each time, if you go back in the recordings, there's separate data that's shared, right? And I think both of us are very
Yeah, like we
clear.
used to talk about Zoho as being the
The
best place to
best, yeah,
start.
exactly, right. So,
And we have a friend
it,
who lost 9,000 accounts overnight on
that
Zoho.
was painful. That was tough, man.
Oh, that was the
Good
worst
man.
day of the
Yeah.
apocalypse, the Zoho apocalypse. Some
Zoho
of us were
apocalypse. That was a
That
horrible
was a
time.
bad day. I remember that day.
Yeah, that was a bad day, man. But thanks, Jamie. See you on the next one. But in the shortest way, Aaron, right now, if you go ahead and send messages to Outlook perceptively, you are going to see, I guess, a tough time to get through, and that's just part of the game right now. That might change in about 2 weeks' time. We don't know, right? But just so that you are aware and your expectations are set right, if you're doing to Outlook, Gmail seems to be working great. So what that effectively means is if you're hitting Fortune 5000, you probably want to wait a bit because anyway, the holiday season is coming. A season is coming in soon as well. But it looks like mid market is going to work really well because most mid market is Gmail by nature. Note. Right. Sweet.
Here's what they
One
also
last.
do. They
Yeah.
they also change these algorithms a lot. So what you got to remember is it's now,
Mm,
like we said, it's you want to be tuning into these office hours. Like I would try to show
mm,
up every week.
mm.
And what you're going to realize is all of this stuff is going to change every
Every week.
time.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And
You
that's, I
know,
guess, that's the best and the worst part of our industry is like you think you know, but
yeah, that's
surely
why you
don't.
want to be tied to Smartlead on this stuff because,
Mm,
like, I think what they're going to build in, they're going to have the most data. They're going to have the biggest data set for this, and they're going to have, they're going to be able to fix the problems a lot faster because they're going to see it way ahead of everybody else.
mm,
And
mm.
it's all silent. You don't really know like when it's going to change or what's going to change, and they realized they could have gotten it wrong in a lot of ways,
Yep.
so they
You're
checked
right.
back.
They keep flipping it all the damn time. I think there's a moment
Yeah.
where, I mean, our best friends Gmail did that, right? With that 0.3% spam rate. And then they're like,
Yes.
oh, shit, we screwed up. And they just went back. Yep.
Yep, they have done some weird stuff,
Yeah.
and then you got to imagine every time they make a change, what it does is it caused an upstream problem with their support teams, right? Because now they're blocking real emails, right? So that's the one thing you do have kind of like on your
hmm
side is like when they start to
They're
block stuff.
self-inflicting themselves. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is not a yeah, it's not like a it's like
Mm.
good or bad, right? Like you got to understand that like you can really cause they can really cause themselves some self-inflicted wounds by
Self-inflict damage.
by
Yeah. They do that a lot of the
their
time. I mean,
support team hate it.
Probably this case, right? That's what ends up happening. Cool. We're going to open up the floor now because we've got a lot of hands up. Just for reference, everyone, whoever wants to, these two go on for a bit. So please, out of respect, keep them at one question per person. Do note, just as a flag, if you jump on and it's anything to do with Smartlead support, I am going to ask you to just take it offline, and I'll be more than happy to
Rudely.
answer that question.
No,
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
in the kindest way possible, I'm going to ask you to just take it offline and then drop it in. But anything to do with Jesse as a person, it's very hard to get Jesse on board. He's one of the busiest people I know. So please use this chance to go through as it is with this. Joe, fabulous having you on board. The mic's yours, sir.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Jesse was great. So we're the end customer trying to make this happen. And I gotta admit, Smartlead has been great compared to some other products that we've used. But at the end of the day, what I'm hearing is we're B2B SaaS enterprise primarily, and going after typically the finance side. You were saying something about the technical companies are a little bit better advanced. So if we're going to industries, you're kind of saying, if I'm hearing you right, kind of more low tech, old school, if it's hospitality or if it's something else versus going after, SaaS businesses or stuff like that. Because I mean, it's brutal. Response rates are brutal. You guys know this, and we're in the land of the blind. The one-eyed man is king, and you're clearly the one-eyed man in this game, and we're all trying to learn. So, any thoughts or insights on that would be
Yeah,
helpful.
so I think there's two things to look at. There's one is the industry. So financial services and IT and technology will be sort of a little bit harder, right? Just because of the security, the technology, all of that. Or government, like defense and things like that. Those are going to be like your top three. Anything with like a higher security, they buy more. If you really want to know, go look at who Proofpoint's customers are. That's going to be the hardest ones to get to. Or Cisco Ironport, whoever their case studies are, those are going to be the ones that you're going to want to avoid. But the other audience that I would say is if we segment that out and we say, okay, great. Now I'm not saying don't email it. I'm saying you want to take more time. Like your goal is to not get reported as spam, right? So whatever you're doing, I'm not saying don't email people. I'm saying test it, but you want to say like, my goal today is thinking about this person that I'm emailing. I cannot get reported as spam. That's the only goal you have, right? So then that's like the industry, whatever. But then there's another segment that I'm seeing, right? Like let's take away the industry segment. Let's now look at the technology, the people that are in like technology fields that understand. I have a buddy, he's in finance, and he tells me he has no problem like lighting up cold email people. And I'm like, well, did you ever think about hitting report as spam? And he's like, no, I didn't even know you could. What does that mean? So he has no idea, right? And he just doesn't know that. But he's engaging with them. I'm like, you're just helping them send more emails that you don't want, right? It's like, I probably shouldn't have even told him that, but I should just let him get as many emails. But like, if you email like a bunch of software engineers, you're going to see pretty quickly how fast they report it as spam. The button is getting closer, and it gets even closer if you turn on open tracking, right? Like there's a button that they can hit, and if they
All right.
Google strategically is putting that closer to the people. They're just kind of like, hey, click this button if you want. But you just got to kind of think about it that way, and then look, that creates a huge opportunity for all the other markets and business opportunities and offers and things like that, right? Local businesses being really under, like I don't think people are using email enough on local business. And if you're like, why even use phone on local business? Like go load up, Smartlead fast and get out there on the local stuff. And then not everybody can change their TAM over night, but like I'm just trying to say, like, these are some of the things that I'm thinking about when I'm emailing people.
If I can add to
Cool.
that piece as well, Joe, on terms of it sort of corroborates what Jesse said. I don't know how large your TAM is. Sorry about the stupid thumbs up. But if your TAM is not that it's not that massive, then you're probably better off um, uh, I think doing a lot of personal outbound. And what I mean by that is you get your general script ready and good to go. But on the final stage on SL, and you're using us, so thank you. On the final stage, you can actually edit the copy per person. And I think that might help a bit with respect to the tweak. The second thing I can suggest is we all love Clay over here. They're a really popular tool in the market. You can definitely do some really fun stuff in terms of personalization on a Clay perspective and go pure AI output. So you have a very clean copy offer to sell. Last thing to note though is please be aware, and look, I'm going to see the bleeding of this more than anyone. You've probably got about 5 weeks or 4 weeks left to sell. I think you know the American markets quite well too. What we've seen is December is not bad, but you don't necessarily have. I think the first week of December comes in. It's not that no one goes out of office, right? People are still working till the 22nd of December. Like one thing I can say, because on the States, just a little while ago, like um, American brother and sister, they grind, like they grind hard. So they're gonna keep working to December, but they're not gonna have any capital. At least what we've seen the past 2-3 years of data, your replies drop dramatically. But your out of office may not show up until the 22nd of December. So you've got 5 weeks. You want to send as much as you can, and you want to personalize as much as you can. Is all I can say.
Cool. Great stuff. Thanks, guys.
All the best, boss.
Yeah, great
Cheers.
question, Joe.
We got Tom next. Hey, Tom.
Good, Tom.
Yeah, Jesse. Hey, sorry, V, you tell me if I'm wrong, but maybe related to what you said you don't want to be asking, but still trying to understand, yeah, smart delivery and why so much is missing.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll keep that off.
Cool.
So the missing piece, just to help you out, 2 notes. For those who are here, fair enough question, by the way. Missing happens for 2 reasons. One, when you sent an email, the emails actually get lost. I can't give you a better answer there. We actually have this information. Jesse, this was the time when we were seeing the Outlook IPs that are toasted, and you send through certain IPs, the emails just disappear. So one, emails just disappear when you send from a toasted tenant IP. Nothing to do with you. It's just how the rotation works. Second thing, this is actually something that we need to work on, Tom, which is your emails are probably bouncing because of either copy or, again, toasted domains. And you can actually find that bounced copy in your untracked replies of that particular mailbox. A lot of front and back for you to do right now, but we are aware that has become people's copy is, I guess, sometimes subjective. So that is what is the second reason. And those are the 2 only reasons that can ever happen. So one, definitely for us to improve on the user experience side, which you'll see next week. But you can actually see that data right now on untracked replies. But the first one is something that has been happening since June on Outlook specifically, at least.
The reason it seems confusing. I did test comparables between like a client's accounts or let's say campaign that's not working well and a campaign that's working really well, and got similar results.
Got same results.
Yeah, similar results. Yeah, exactly.
So placement rates are very different from offer copies, right? Like there's 2 separate things. The job of the SC is just to make sure that it's doing well, right? But if the reply rates are strong, that's obviously something we can't control. The only thing we can do is that, and I just want to be very clear, just I think someone called it out on Sasyat. There's not much that we do, right? We have a bunch of mailboxes. You send it to us. We show you where it's landed. That's about it, right? It's actually not like, I don't want to hype it up as a super complex tool. The complexity is in the scale.
Adjust it yourself too. Just go run go buy another inbox and send an email to yourself.
Yeah, you can just send it yourself, and you can see that. And to be honest, like, and a lot of it is to be honest. So to be honest, it's really interesting because now we're gonna start adding rotative mailboxes. That means right now there's about 100, 200 mailboxes that you're using. Next week onwards, we're gonna keep cycling through because what we've also realized is if you this is long known information, right? Like if you contact a domain in the past and you contact the same domain again from certain similar domains, there is an incremental chance that you will have similar behavior as you had the previous time. You land in primary the first time, there's an incremental potential that you land in the primary the second time, even though you might have shit copy, or vice versa. You might have great copy the second time, but the first time, because you land in spam, it increases. This was long known information, and ST kind of proves it. You can buy the Outlook. So for reference, we buy our Outlook accounts. These things matter whether like it or not. All our Outlook accounts, for reference to everyone, are bought through phone numbers that are Twilio owned phone numbers as well. So everything is done very heuristically and very specifically, so that it's as accurate as possible across different parts of the US as well. But yeah, Tom, I can't give you that answer on a live call with a couple hundred people, but you're more than welcome to DM me on Slack. Everyone knows that, and I'll be happy to look into that on a campaign perspective. Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Cheers, man. All right, we got Ankur. Let's go for it.
Hello, hi folks. So I'm kind of a cold email newbie trying to learn. So one question I have is that, what is the advantage of using some of these email infrastructure providing products, and how do they perform? I mean, like I have come across products like MailReef and MailDoso, etc. So is it a good idea to use them? Because obviously, I mean, I'm not an agency. I want my emails to go through and to my prospects. So the question here is, what is your recommendation?
Sure. So I think really what you're asking is, how do you get the best reply rates for emails that you're sending on Solicitor, right? More cold emails. Straight.
Yeah. No, I'm asking that, is it a good idea to just use these email infrastructure provider which are non-legacy, like MailDoso and MailReef are the examples I cited?
Oh, okay. I got you. I got what you're saying. Yeah. So look, there are certainly some other ways to do it. I think it all comes, those providers, any provider that isn't just straight Microsoft, Google, or whatever, they might be using Microsoft or whatever. They might have a method there. I think what I would say is the challenge you have is it's not their fault ever, really. What it is it depends on your emails that you're sending. So if you're sending like, offer, like, just it depends on how well your emails are going to be in the market, right? And when you send those emails, it depends on how many times people report as spam. So the more times those get reported as spam, the more that provider has to do, right? The more work, the more labor involved, right? They have to go and buy new IPs. They have to do all kinds of interesting stuff to get that email fixed. So that's the thing is it really depends on, how much are you paying that provider? I always talk to people. I'm like, how much are you paying that provider anyways? And they're like, I don't know, like $50 a month. I'm like, okay, well, how are they gonna, I mean, like you almost, if you're not paying enough to those providers, like I just don't see it being successful because, they're going to take on as many, I mean, their goal, right? They're a business. They want to take on as many clients as they can. They have a limited number of, if you're doing something, maybe they're putting you on a dedicated IP, but then the math is around how many times does that dedicated IP get flagged, and then how many times do they have to rotate it. Every time they have to rotate it, it costs money, right?
Understood.
So if your copy is causing them to have to rotate that IP every time, or your domains or whatever, they have to troubleshoot that and figure out what the problem is. That's when it costs them more money. So then it's not as much of an unlimited service. It's more of like, and it's the same way with inboxes in Google, right? Like, so if you're a reseller and if you're selling to the cold email market, I mean, quite frankly, if I was a reseller of Gmail inboxes and doing it, I really would be very cautious of selling it to people who send cold emails if I wanted to keep those there. But there's some companies that specialize in that. They know you're going to use the right tools. They know you're going to do that. You got a much better chance if you're using tools like Smartlead to be successful. And then I'd say you also want to talk to that provider, right? I've had some big clients. They've tried all of them. I have friends who are using every single one of them. Like, I could probably name whatever one you named. I wouldn't give you my opinion of it, but I would say, there's people that I know that are using it, and we've tested all indirectly. I haven't actually partnered with any of them personally, but I've indirectly looked at the statistics for all of them. Pretty much most of them. And by the way, the founders are usually great people, right? I'd talk to their founders. I really do like a lot of their founders are really, really smart people. But what I would look for is month 3. I always say is after because that's going to really dictate, like, hey, maybe your message is not going to be supported very well in those providers. I'm not saying it's going to be supported any better in Microsoft Office or Google, but it really comes down to how well that message goes across that audience and how well that offer is received. And that's really what it's going to come down to.
Okay.
It's different. It's a different answer for every, like if you set up something,
It's not
meeting,
direct yes, no, I see your point. I see your point.
there's
Wait,
too many variables that I
yeah,
would need to know to make the decision. Most of it's going to be like, what are you asking the customer to do? What are you asking the prospect to do on the other side? Like,
yeah.
are you offering them anything interesting without just asking for a meeting on
Hmm.
a whatever it is? Is it
Concern.
general? Is it a highly targeted audience that really needs this solution? You know, are you selling, you know, water to people in the desert? I mean, I don't, you know, I don't know what it is, right? So if we had all of those details, we could probably make a better decision. But
Okay.
then again, you probably could send it on your own as well.
Okay. First question I also have is that why do you recommend to use Cloudflare DNS with Namecheap? Like why not
Ankur, if I can just be respectful, there's about
Sorry,
6-7 more people. Sorry.
I
You
see.
can definitely drop it in the Slack chat.
Yes,
I
we'll
know
do
you
that,
mentioned
yeah.
regarding Cloudflare, etc. To it's in the recording. But it's a lot to do with the name servers
APIs.
that Cloudflare, the name servers, as well as the APIs, as well as the DNS infrastructure that Cloudflare has versus compared to Namecheap or GoDaddy or other vendors. Jesse, what are your
It's the
thoughts on
workers and
Postman?
the APIs. Yep.
Okay. Cool. Okay, Ankur, we'll add it to the Slack chat as well. You'll have that answers come through nonetheless. But thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Vadim, I hope I got it right. V.
Yeah,
right.
that's correct. Yes, that's all
Let's
right.
go
Yeah,
for
V.
it, man. On to
V
you, sir. Go
is
for it.
good enough. Yeah.
What's going on,
thanks.
man?
All right, thanks, man. Yeah, great stuff. Thank you so much. Now I feel much more relaxed. I didn't do 1 million placement tests. I just did 3. And oh boy, I felt myself toasted because the first one, it returned me 18% overall results. I thought, what the hell is going on? Basically, so what I did, I checked all the email providers, all the ESPs, and I tried, and we just using the Outlook infrastructure. So on that project, so it was Outlook to everything else, and it was so bad. And worst of all was Outlook to Outlook, to be honest. It was like you said, like 100% spam rate. That's what it's overall 18%. It was so bad.
Yeah,
I thought
like I thought it's a bug. Like it was like if you see our Slack chats, we had like a P0 call with the team saying, I think there's something wrong, and I don't want to.
There's a bug.
I thought there's a bug, and the thing is, if there's a bug, I automatically started seeing people put it on different group chats saying, "Yeah, we're screwed." I was like, I don't want to mess up the entire industry based on something we had, but far out, that was what it was, right? Like we actually ran the test, and I was like, shit, this is actually all going to spam. Then I thought maybe there's some filter that our product team put into the Outlook accounts they purchased. We tried out. No, it's just private Outlook. It was just scraping
exactly,
it up. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
So the next one was 33%, but it's just because, as you said, country to country. Just because I used North America and I was sending to North American, and I have much better, but still 33%, so bad. But when I used it on another project for random SMTP provider to all kinds of service in Europe, and that was a client in Europe, it was 60. Let me see. Actually, I have it in the tab here. 60.87% overall result, which I consider very good, and also the deliverability and the response rate is great there. However, today, like 2 very quick questions. First, Outlook problem. I've noticed that all of those Outlook emails, well, most of those spams that I got into because of certain IP addresses of ESP were blacklisted. And there is like a very direct correlation between blocked ESP IPs and there is like 40.107. Whatever there is. And these are going into spam. So are we going to do anything about it? Like I told my admin team, like go and speak to Microsoft, not to send any emails from these addresses. And they said to me, like, man, hey, crazy. Like if you want to go and speak to Microsoft yourself, there's nothing we can do about it. So that's what my IT admin team told me. So first, is there a way to stop sending from specific IP address on SP? That's the very first question. Second, you didn't elaborate too much on SMTP providers. Do we need, and there is one good fella dropped in the chat, like best practices, like 50-50 Outlook and Gmail. I think that should be like, I don't know, 40-20 with SMTP providers. What do you think? So yeah, sorry for doing two
Yeah, that's all
questions
good.
of one.
Jesse, I'd love for you to
Yeah.
take the second question. If you don't mind, I'll just drop in the last one. So, Vadim, so that's the whole point of Smart Senders. It's a shopping cart experience. You can buy Outlook, Gmail, and SMTP providers and just give it a crack. So that's the entire shtick, right? Is we don't know what works today will work tomorrow. Keep it separate, keep trying and see what works best for you, and dynamically keep changing that. We'll automate a lot of that internally, the tool as well for you. So we're not giving you more work. We'll click a button and we'll start adjusting the sending and all that stuff. So you're good to go.
Thanks, man.
Then very quick one. Yeah, Jesse, on to you regarding the IPs and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, you want to kind of understand what they're doing. I mean, I've heard some people, rumors of like, told me like, hey, once you get on this like backscatter Microsoft Office IP range, it can start to get really hard. That might be a time to go set up another Microsoft Office account for your client. That's one thing to do. Obviously, then the other one you asked about on the SMTP thing. I mean, so you know, as somebody who buys like the IP addresses and has been doing a lot of testing on this stuff, if you want to buy a good IP range for cold email and sort of try to keep it, you know, hot or whatever, I mean, it can cost quite a bit of money. Even you know, getting, let's say you get like a range for like 256 IP addresses, it could be like $100 a month, but like, you know, that can get blocked pretty quickly too, right? Like, so, you know, it gets pricey is the problem is like and the better the IP range is, and then that IP range, when you buy those dedicated, they don't have any tolerance for abuse either. So they're very rigid there. So you almost have to do a lot of like different things there. And I think it gets a little too complicated for most people. So that's why it does make sense to go to some of those SMTP providers that can flip the IPs quick for you. It's a lot of networking and systems work. And they have to do a lot to keep those things happy. Or to keep those things not an abuse. And cold email becomes abusive a little bit as you're sort of like putting it out there, right? Like if you're getting a lot of reported spam, that's going to come through, and they don't want those IPs getting blocked, right? So they're very rigid on that stuff. So you know, so then it becomes more of a volume game of how many warm-up emails we can send. And it just becomes a huge, I mean, you got to know what you're doing to do that stuff. You really do. You really have to understand the stuff pretty well. And you need to know when your stuff does show up. You know, I think where I would be very careful is month 2 and 3. I think what you're going to see is like, you'll buy one, it'll work perfectly for like a month, 2 months, maybe 2. And then month 1.5, it just drops, it just plummets. And I've seen this happen on big accounts. They buy, and then, so keep your contracts fairly limited there. You know, I don't know what kind of contracts the marketplace on Smartlead will have, but you know, make sure it's like month to month so you understand it, or like quarterly. I mean, they do need to run a business, so their month to month price might be high, but you probably want to pay the higher price just so you know after month 2 you can get out of it, right? Because it's not great. It's not a great business model for SaaS, because of what I just explained. Is these IPs can get torched fast.
Yeah, very quickly. I'll jump in one thing because I know we've got 4 more people and we're running out of time. As expected, we're 1.5 hours in. So Vadim, one thing to just add for you, if it helps, what we also do is there's some SOPs we've created in the Help Center. You can ask people to switch your tenant IPs every 2 weeks. They rotate every 2 weeks by nature. So you can ask them to like force purge it. Just be like, hey, looks like blah, blah. Can you just change my tenant IPs? This is the thing, right? That's one thing to note. So that will help you out. Yeah, your IT team will tell you no, but you actually can tell them to rotate your IPs. They will do that for you once or twice, but like you can get your way through. Second thing, do note that Outlook and Google have very, very, very complex relay networks and sending mechanisms. They are very smart as the way they do things, that the way they do it. I think Jesse even called it out when we had a session in June, where he noticed that certain verbiaged emails were going through certain IPs, and he, similar to you, called out the fact, I think he was going through Microsoft Defender, and he saw that certain IPs just had a lower reputation chance than other IPs did. And the goal was then to figure out what was triggering an email to go down that IP versus some other IP. And it was almost consistent. You could see when it went down that path, it was bad, and when it went down this path, it was good. Now the black
Yeah,
box is to figure out
definitely.
what was the reasoning for it to go there.
Mhm.
That's I guess if we knew, we wouldn't be here, right? So we'll have to figure it out ourselves. But anyway, in an effort to answer the next 4 questions, thank you so much, Vadim. Great questions.
Thank you. Thanks,
Hopefully this
guys.
helped them.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. We'll go into Grant, Omar, Ariel, and Saklain. Sorry if I got your name wrong, mate. And we'll just cap it at that for people. Hello, big boss.
Hey, how's it going, guys? One question. How do we know, based on these inbox placement tests, when it's a copy problem versus an inbox problem? Obviously, the copy problems are what leads to the inbox domain tenant getting burnt.
Yeah.
But how do we tell where we're at in that progress if we can,
Yep. Noted.
put the inbox on
Noted.
warm up for 2 weeks and, sort of rescue it, or do we need to replace it?
Noted. Jesse, do you mind me taking this, if that's okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, easy. So I actually answered that in the last session. There's a YouTube video. We'll send it to you, and it's also going to be native to the product. There's 3 permutations for you to be focused on, Grant. Permutation number 1, 100% or 80% placement rate, and in which case, nothing to worry about. Your blacklists are probably fine. Your copies probably fine. Your IPs are fine. However, now let's take option number 2. Option number 2 is you've got extremely low placement rate, but you're listing some problematic blacklist, right? It's a blacklist issue. If you've got a low score and no blacklist, to some assumption, you can go for a fact that it is your copy. Plus, if you actually see in your live campaign as well, you're not getting replies, it sort of adds on to that piece, right? So that's the 3 permutations that we think right now matter. There are a lot more, but these 2 things are the ones that make the biggest difference. To help you out, just for reference, we are going to give you the ability to do A/B testing very soon, a week and a half. So you'll be able to, remove that parameter from your side as well. Cool. Easy. Cheers, man. Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Omar, on to you, sir.
Guys, thank you very much. I have just 2 quick questions. The first one is, do you think it has a bad impact if we send plain text but with a link, like just written link? Is it better? Is it worse? Like, what happens? And then the second thing was using link shorteners in this case. So like to not send a shitty link. And
Link shorteners, no way. That's like the number 1 way you can get hacked.
Okay.
No way on those. I mean, those are, because a link shortener is it's like a redirect. It's like a really,
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially how everybody gets hacked on the internet, is like malware through link shorteners.
Okay.
So that's the plain text link. I'm still a no on that. I mean, I think, look, I guess if you're sending a link, if you sent a LinkedIn smart link, you might be okay. But maybe in the 3rd email.
Okay, and
I think you would want to be careful. I don't know what you're going to get out of it. I'm still trying to see the use case, really. If you're trying to go in to solve one problem, do that. I mean, maybe you ask them if they want the link to something. Might be a better way to do it.
yeah, like Ryan said, because we are a video prospecting agency, and the thing is that
yes.
yeah, that right now we can't even send any more like the thumbnails because Google blocks them.
They are
So
bad about the thumbnails now. Now that whole business model is tough right now
yeah,
because
so
of the recent change on the pixel, on the open tracking.
yeah, so we're trying a lot of things, and it seems like sending a link works, and I'm trying just to improve it anyway, like to get even more out of it, and maybe try to send plain text that we weren't able to do before. So yeah,
try it out. I haven't tested it, to be quite honest with you. I think what would work better if I had to predict. I haven't tested it, so your data would be more accurate than mine. But I think if I had to predict what would be better is asking the person if they want the link, if it's something interesting, and then seeing if they want it, and then automatically sending it to them through a subsequence.
yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do. But yeah, well, thank you.
If I can just add one last point for you, Omar,
Yeah, sure.
is you can do the plain text option like Jesse suggested, and don't put the link. What ends up happening to sometimes, so the perceptive advantage is the link is actually not a link on the email
Yep.
send perspective, but the link becomes a rendered link on Google's perspective. You've probably seen this as well, right? When you even force push it, like you literally inspect element of the copy, you remove the A tag, and you literally rip it apart, and you just send it as google.com. It will be sent as a plain text email. Everything will be fine. But on the receiver's end, it will still highlight google.com, and people think that you're actually sending email link. You're not. It's just Google. Again, it's a consumer product. It's going to render it to give the customer the experience that it wants to feel is premium. So, but I don't know if that has a negative impact or not, but that is always the suggestion. Cool. Easy, man.
That's it.
Good
Thank you.
information.
Sweet. Last two questions. We'll go with Ariel. On to you, sir.
Hi, Jesse. Thank you for this.
Hey, Ariel.
So I've got inboxes on MailReef, and I've emailed Outlook, and I got a 555.7.1 error message. So unfortunately, messages from that specific IP that we're sending from were not sent. Please contact your internet service provider, since part of their network is on our block list. But when we test it, it doesn't seem there that, like, I'm not sure what to do in that regards, because when MailReef are testing it, they are inboxing to Outlook. So I'm not sure how to go through that, how to fix that. I mean, we've been chatting, via email, but yeah.
What are they saying? I mean, see, there's a yeah, this is a tough problem. Are they sending through Smartlead when they're testing it on their side?
No, they're sending through API.
I mean, the only thing I could suggest would be, this is exactly what this is the tricky part here, right? This is where it gets a little harder. Yeah, there's not much. Can they flip the IP address? Can they give you a different range? I guess is the only thing they can really do. It just gets harder because, like, what they're trying to do, like I said, it's a tough business model, and I think the MailReef guys are really bright guys too. So I just think it's a hard model here, right? This is a tough model. I mean, you want to. I really like those guys too. So
yeah, Mike is great. Like, he's the originator of warmup inbox, and like he knows a lot. So
really smart dudes. Yeah, it's just
I can add one thing, Jesse, if it helps. Ariel, so something that we're doing, even though I don't think it actually I'm doing it because we're doing it because people asked for it, not because I actually think it is what it is. We're actually going to give people dedicated IP addresses in a few days' time. Cool. So you can buy your own dedicated IP. No one touches it. It's yours. Even though I don't think it makes a difference, to be honest, but people think it does. But at least you have the full onus and control of what happens. In the end, like Jesse called out, it is very much a context of trying to have, you're going to be stuck in the middle, right? We're going to say, we're an SCP. We don't send emails. I mean, we don't originate them, right? They're going to say, yep, we tried it. It works fine. Now, I can tell you one thing, and it does not help you in the situation you're at. Try to do what works best for your business, right? If it is sending through an API is what's working for you, do that, right? If it's sending through SL that works for you, do that. In my perspective, doing a test on one or the other, like one or two, does not make sense. I don't know how long you've been in this call. It's gone for a while. I literally said at the very start of the call. Yeah, I said at the very start of the call, which is, even though we have gone ahead and tested 1.5 million emails, like the reports that we have, I still don't, that's a drop, a nano drop in the ocean of how many emails actually go out every single day. So one landing primary, one landing secondary, I would draw no parallel outcomes out of that. Literally none, right? I mean, even the report that we gave Jesse, we did not include anything less than 300,000 emails, right? Which I still feel is not like a lot, right? So if we are acknowledged of that, trust me, 1 and 1, you're not going to get much out of. Send 1,000 minimum through A and B. If MailReef are willing to do that test for you, then I think you can make the conclusive outcome of which one works best for your business. And I would always suggest you to go for that approach.
Okay, do both. Okay, thank you so much.
That's like the one caveat of this whole thing is, like, anything I just told you, just ignore it and test it yourself. If you don't any of the stuff, like, that's what's great about, like, our approach here is, like, we just think that, look, if somebody comes to us with better data and says, hey, this is better, this is working better, Now, if it's different than what we found, we're going to ask the same questions like, hey, did you try this? Did you try that? Like, we're going to do that. So that's what's great about, I think, at least the Smartlead community in general is like, they're really willing to accept new
Yeah.
data, information, change, growth mindset kind of organization. And that's what really drew me to work with them, really.
Yeah.
I didn't find that anywhere else. Everything else was either how fast can we sell unlimited inboxes or how bad can we put our primary domain name in spam and
Yeah.
faster,
Right.
and Smartlead.
It's always going to be unfortunately the same answer, Ariel, as frustrating as I'm sure it is on the receiving end, which is test the boat and see what works for you.
Sure.
Both
No, you
guys.
gave me a good lead, and I'll definitely have something to ask them about. So yeah, that's good.
Cool. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, boss. Cheers. Last question. Let's go for it. Sakalain, I hope I got your name right, mate. Apologies if I butchered it.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you
How
mind
are you,
turning on your
man?
camera? Fabulous. Thank you for asking. Do you mind turning on your camera because we can't spotlight you without that?
Sure, but
Thank you. With the shirt on as well. Helps.
okay, so it's on.
All right, that's fine. Okay, we can or can't see you, but go for your question.
Okay, so why there is so much difference in the email test deliverability of Smart Delivery, and then I tested it on the mail reach, so it was way much better. Like the score I got on mail reach, it was like 10/10 of my emails, domain, everything was fine. But when I tested on a Smart Delivery, it said like overall score 10%, 20%, 50% are going in missing, and 30%, 40% spam. I was just like too much scared of like what are
Okay,
the.
I mean, my
But
answer is going to be
eventually the
simple.
result.
I'll give you a simple answer, which
Yeah.
is you're not paying us to give you good news, right? It's simple. Like I'm not to be rude. I apologize. I'm being honest, right? Like I every other tool in the market, I don't know what they do, but like I said at the very start, uh, I it's in my very bias to lie to you and give you good scores, so all of you can pay us. Like I seek no joy in A, doing warm-ups and paying a shit ton of money, and then B, giving you a crappy score and then getting you scared and probably churning out of the platform. Like I seek no value out of that, right? So do note that whatever we give is just what we get. Why there's a difference, you're probably worthwhile asking them, because from our side, at least what we know, like I mentioned, it's clean Outlook accounts, clean OAuth accounts, clean O365 accounts, purchased from the same place that you would have tested from, bought from Twilio in the respective local areas. So everything's kept as clean as possible. Separate credit cards as well, using wise.com. So there's no tracking and reference points. So that's how we've done it. If they've done it a separate way, kudos to them. But unfortunately, I'm not going to, pat people's backs and tell them that you're doing good.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for this answer. But and the next quick question is: should we like use a private server, SMTP server, or we should like use the buy from mailboxes from resellers? What is best among them? Like,
Sweet. We'll drop that as a final question. I know we've gone for a while, Jesse. Thank you so much. Yeah, Akash, we probably unpin Sakalain. We'll just finish the question. So Jesse, final question, I guess, fun one that everyone
I would
has
say
had.
careful on anything you do there on your own, because there's a lot of complexity into setting up your own stuff. I mean, I've done stuff like this for myself, and it's a lot of work, right? And you need to kind of know, you need to do a lot of placement testing to make sure you're not creating more havoc for yourself. That's the bottom line. So doing it on your own is probably not a good option. If you're asking the question, it's probably not a good option. The only reason you would do it on your own is you know you could do it better.
Yep. And then self setup is going to be painful. Yeah.
Watch out for the ones that say they're like $1 for everything they do and everything's cheap and stuff. You want the ones that are like, unfortunately, and some of them are real jerks about it, but they probably could be. If they're good, right? They'll be like, yeah, they're really hard to get on a call. They're like, there's some that are just like, if they're complete jerks. In the SYC, we talk about this quite a bit. There's a lot, and that place is brutal. I mean, I created the place, but it is brutal for like product people, because if your product even has like a little nick on it, if there's something, I mean, people find the weirdest bugs in that place. and have the most extreme opinions of every product in there. I mean, it's a complete, I don't know why. I'm sort of sad that I created it in some ways because it's so brutal in there. Like I'll put something out, I'll be like, man, I thought this was a good feature, and I'll get torched, on it. You know what I'm talking about. You get torched. Like there's nothing, there's no, like, you can't, no imperfection in your product, but I think that's a good place to ask around. I mean, you're not going to get the G2 crowd stuff. I mean, I don't think anybody pays attention to G2 crowd reviews anymore. I mean, that's a scam, but, I hope not. I mean, that whole website is a complete scam, but, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? In terms of the inbox provider, SMTP providers?
Look, here's the thing, as I think we've actually stayed away from this question for a while. I hate to be this person and say it, do what works, test it, it'll cost you a couple of bucks. And if those couple of bucks are going to return in $5,000 in a booked meeting or deal or customer, it's pennies to dollars. You got to spend money to make money. Unfortunately, that's how the world works, the world that we live in. And if a MailDoso or MailReef, whatever popular tool in the market exists, they cost you, $1 a mailbox, $5 a mailbox. Try it out. Doesn't work, move on. But just make sure you have enough sample size. Setting up your own dedicated IPs, that's a tough one. I wouldn't do that unless you really know what you're doing. The self-managed part is a lot of work because you need to monitor your blacklists. You need to monitor the amount of sends per the IP. You want to make sure the IP is warmed up. There's a lot of work that goes into that.
Ignore the gurus. Yeah. Ignore the gurus, unfortunately.
That's what we have to say.
Test it. Test everything. That's
Easy.
what I did.
All right.
Because people aren't going to give you, right? They're gonna. I mean, the best, most secretive stuff like that people are doing. You're gonna go test stuff. It's really painful.
Yeah.
That's how I learned.
Pretty much. That's exactly what it is. Everyone has an agenda. I think I said this last time, including me. So take everything with a grain of salt, right? That's how the world works. Well, look, everyone, before you all go, surprise, like we always said, whoever's left, the 82 of you, thank you for staying 2.5 hours in. That's a fabulous. Jesse always comes with the gold. 5 of you are going to be given 6,000 email verification credits with valid catch-alls taken care of as well for you on the house from our side. So yeah, sorry, Jesse, for selling Smartlead verification on the same call as you.
Oh, dude,
but
awesome. I want him to use it.
Yeah, but definitely check out Lead Magic as well, as effectively probably right now the most popular verification tool in the market. In about 7 months or 6 months that he's launched it. So gang to that guy for sure. So thank you. Have a good day, and we'll see you all in the Slack channel. Like always, like we always say, 3 things that are consistent in life: taxes, death, and office hours on Thursdays at 10 a.m. EST. Jesse, any final remarks from your side? Anywhere people can find you? What you're doing next? What should people look out to?
Yep. Ignore the gurus. You just never listen to them. They're just never right. Challenge everything you hear. Test it though. Make sure you have some good data. And if you're going to come out the gurus, make sure you have a good plan of what you think is incorrect.
What you're going to say. Yep.
Challenge them, because they're gonna fight for their turf, just like anybody. If you want to take the turf, you better have better information, better data.
That's it. If you don't use Lead Magic, Jesse's gonna mark your email as spam, just FYI. So you're probably best using Lead Magic.
I'm marking you as spam. If I don't see if I don't see Smartlead in there and I don't see Lead Magic, it might be harder.
Love it. All right. Thank you so much, Jesse. As always, very much appreciated. This was a fabulous episode. Thank you all. This will be on YouTube within 24 hours, and as well on our Slack channel. Like I said, the industry report Jesse broke down will be available to all of you very soon. We'll share it across the internet, and your private reports, perspective to how your campaigns are performing, will start showing up every week in your email account on Smartlead. Thank you all. Have a beautiful day. Goodbye.
Thank you.